Shri Shashi Tharoor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I must say that looking at the empty Treasury benches, I can see that instead of addressing the members of this House, I'm addressing the embers of this House. But anyway, it is clearly a constitutional anomaly, Mr. Chairman, that the government has sought to introduce in this House this insurance amendment bill, which is similar to a bill pending in the upper house, the Rajya Sabha. Both the bills have exactly the same context, been introduced for exactly the same purpose of reforming the insurance sector in our country. And I mentioned the word constitutional here because the government, by doing so, has really acted contrary to the simple and express provisions of Article 107 of the Constitution of India, which enunciates the procedure for introducing and passing a bill. And then Article 108 further describes a situation where the bill has been passed by one house and has to be transmitted to the other house. Now, our Constitution clearly intended that the bill can only be transmitted from one house to the other after passing one house. Now, here you've got a bill stuck in one house and being offered to the other house. This is simply not correct in terms of constitutional practice, Mr. Chairman. And so when the Rajya Sabha has not yet passed the insurance amendment bill, how is it that he can attempt to pass it in this House? Now, we understand the government's position is that since the Rajya Sabha bill is dated 2014 and the Lok Sabha bill is dated 2015, technically it's a different name and a different bill. Now, we've always known that this government, Mr. Chairman, is a name-changing government and not a game-changing government. But nonetheless, the content of both the bills is the same. That bill, therefore, remains the property of the Rajya Sabha, and it cannot be discussed in this House if we are to uphold the authority and the power of the Council of States. Or are we to believe that the government thinks it has attained supremacy over both the Houses of Parliament? It's a serious question, sir, because the government's inability to pass the upper house, the bill in the upper house, has pushed us into an unnecessary deliberation, which, as you can see, most of the members are boycotting. And I don't know whether I should consider this bill with the sincerity and the seriousness that, that is required by such an issue, because the government may eventually choose to withdraw this bill and adopt the version pending before the Rajya Sabha.
Excuse me, this House lacks quorum.
Anyway, since we have decided to go ahead with the debate, I will now proceed, Mr. Chairman, to make my arguments. We all know that insurance is a multi-dimensional feature. It achieves a social purpose. It produces a new source of capital for our country for developing financial institutions. It mitigates risk and motivates people to venture into unexpected territory. So all of this we're fine, and I'm surprised that the Treasury benches have not yet traced the roots of insurance to the Manusmriti, the Dharma Shastra and the Artha Shastra, because had they done so, they would have been right in doing so. These ancient texts mention the practice of pooling resources for redistribution during calamities such as fires and floods and so on. Of course, the modern-day insurance system would not bear much resemblance to its ancient counterpart, but the idea remains the same. Insurance is about safeguarding the interest of the people from loss and uncertainty by spreading risk over a large number of people. And this is something which is obviously vital for the growth of our economy, for it channelizes large resources for infrastructure and industrial development and strengthens the risk-taking ability of a country. It's a source of employment, it creates additional jobs, it helps us raise capital for new ventures. And then I want to talk about the need for medical insurance, because rising medical costs in our country have created a great deal of understandable alarm. Because frankly, Mr. Chairman, the truth is that there's a double tragedy in our country. Many people are bankrupted by illness. They are first laid low, which reduces their earning capacity, and then they lose their savings to treat the illness. So health insurance is extremely important because you want to prevent your working population from being burdened by extreme debt. Yet 90% of our population has no health insurance, and another 70% of the total expenditure on health in this country is made by individuals. So the need to strengthen the sector is self-sufficient. Now, this is why the UPA government came up, first of all, with this bill. With our version of this bill. The Indian insurance industry has entered a state of unrest. It's marred by slow growth, rising costs, deteriorating distribution structure, and store reforms. And that's why in 2008 we brought in an insurance amendment bill to the Rajya Sabha. It was then criticized by the principal opposition party now occupying the Treasury benches. They wanted us not to reform the insurance sector. This is frankly, Mr. Chairman, the politics of opportunism, not the politics of principle. Today we see the same people sitting in the government, not only accepting our reforms, but introducing a bill to implement them and more. So where you stand depends on where you sit. Now they're sitting there, their stand has changed. Now the government, while in opposition, had repeatedly opposed FDI in the insurance sector, and they said they were safeguarding the interests of the people. Now apparently the same interests of the same people are no longer of relevance to this government, because they're pushing not one but two bills to put FDI in the insurance sector, one in each house. Now it seems that suddenly the inflow of foreign funds and the balance sheets of the insurance companies are more appealing to the BJP than their previous convictions. Now, I do want to say that I have no problem with the principle of FDI in insurance. 49% up from 26%, this was our proposal as well. And we wanted to bring in more capital into the insurance sector, because the fact is that thanks to the reforms that had come in into the sector already, the number of insurance companies has gone up from 9 nationalized companies in 1999 to 53 companies by 2014. Now, all the reforms that we wanted to bring in could have been brought in had this party now sitting in the Treasury benches not opposed and obstructed the UPS bill for 6 years. But what they have done, however, is they have taken our bill and they have added about 100 unnecessary amendments to it. It's now been repackaged as the NDA's insurance bill, and this government is very good at repackaging, Mr. Chairman. Now they've also wanted to permit foreign institutional investments besides increasing the FDI limit. Now this combination is troubling. It remains an extremely volatile form of foreign investment, FII. It is a speculative form of foreign investment. Portfolio investments can be liquidated at very short notice, repatriated immediately. FII, in fact, is rather like financial tourism. They can come and go whenever they like in short-term visas. And can the country afford this? The fact is that funds under FII generally flow into a secondary market, therefore they may not specifically ensure availability of capital for the insurance sector in comparison to FDI, which will directly boost the insurance companies. And so for us, we argued in the UPA's bill that it's enough for the insurance companies to raise money through the FDI route alone, and the need for FII does not arise. Putting both FII and FDI together raises troubling questions because it leaves Indian markets vulnerable and subject to global insecurities, instabilities which we had resisted in the past. After all, this very point was made by the BJP's own Honorable Shri Yashwant Sinha, whom Mr. Pokhriyal has already quoted, in May 2012, and I commend him to his son, the young minister sitting before us, to kindly consult his paternal wisdom here. We actually had survived the global financial stresses and strains, the global crisis of 2008 onwards, because we had actually resisted managing to link these things together. We reduced the vulnerabilities to the international market. Instead, what the BJP government is doing is they're adding risk without any accurate or reliable estimate of possible reward. Now, meanwhile, sir, they have gone into a tremendous paradox here because they've loosened this whole thing in one area, which means they have the worst of both worlds because they've allowed FII, for instance. But on the other, they're tightening too much because they're defeating the very purpose of the bill by introducing new restrictions that were not there in the UPA's bill. I'll give you a couple of quick examples, Mr. Chairman. The restrictions they brought in for foreign investors, they're insisting now on full Indian management. Foreign shareholders cannot appoint CEOs. They cannot, they're supposed to bring in money but have no say in the company. Would foreign shareholders be willing to pump in investments without any control? It seems to me a very dubious possibility. Then they have actually required that insurance companies, which have to pay an annual fee to the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, that if there is any failure to do so, immediately their registration certificate will be cancelled. But then what happens to the people who are insured by these companies?
Kindly conclude now.
I'm coming to
Please conclude now.
The point is that the BJP government is not thinking about the people, Mr. Chairman. I've barely spoken 6-7 minutes. I was supposed to have much more for my party to initiate this debate. But anyway...
I know. Initiating the debate you allow, and there are nobody to talk. At least you listen our suggestions. We know that even if we say अगर ना बोले तो भी पास हो जाएगा, हाँ बोले तो भी पास हो जाएगा।
लेकिन सुन लीजिए,
आपके पास मेजॉरिटी है, कम से कम सुनिए।
So I just want to say that they've got to be sensible about the restrictions they're imposing. And at the same time, sir,
I have done my duty, let him speak.
5 minutes. One additional risk is that there is no guarantee that FDI and FI investments will constitute new money or fresh infusions of capital into insurance. What protections, Mr. Minister, can you build into the law to ensure that FDI just doesn't become an opportunity for allowing the existing Indian shareholders to make a quick buck by selling their shares to foreigners and exiting? What we need to do is ensure that the FDI and FI is only limited to additional shareholders or to new capital that's coming into the insurance industry. So all of these provisions I would urge the minister to consider. I'm skipping some other points, but I'm happy to pass it on to him. But I do want to warn him about the punitive attitude he has embedded into this bill. The drastic increases in the punishments, the fine applicable, the imprisonment term for certain contraventions under the Act. I've got a number of details of sections that have listed all this. Then the upper limit of the penalty going to 25 crores from 5 lakhs. 5 lakhs in the UPA's bill, 25 crores in theirs. I mean, these are not justifiable in terms of the nature of the offence. And I would urge the minister to review the proposed fines to ensure that the penalty actually serves as an effective deterrent and does not force the perpetrator to invariably appeal against the order of the processing authority, the penalizing authority, because a high appeals rate will only cost the exchequer more and not help the government to raise revenue through fines. Then,
Mana Shashi Tharoor ji, please conclude now. Others have to.
2 minutes, sir, 2 minutes. The minimum equity capital requirement for health insurance has been raised to 100 crores. But as I've explained earlier, we need more Indians to have health insurance. Do we want more Indians to be bankrupted by illness? The government must think about the people of this country. And similarly, the equity capital requirement could have been maintained at 50 crores as in the UPA's bill in order to make it easier for insurance companies to come into the health insurance business.
P. Venugopal.
Yes, sir. Last point, sir. Just to stress, having done all of this, they could have actually strengthened the regulatory side. Instead, the IRDA could have been given the power to make necessary regulations for health insurance in consultation with the Medical Association. They've not thought of that. That could be a simple doing. And then they have an inadequate appellate authority. The Securities Appellate Tribunal is the body they have appointed to hear this, but they have not provided for any insurance experts on this tribunal. So how will the purpose of actually having appeals on insurance work when the SAT has no one there? So there's no relevant expertise on the panel. I hope the government will consider these suggestions. I'm happy to give more details to the minister since you have cut my time short, Mr. Chairman, but I would have to concede that though we were in favor of the substance of the principle of the bill, the problems pointed out by us will make it very difficult for us to support the government in its current form.
Shashi Tharoor
therefore,
ji,
sir,
please
for the
conclude
reasons
now.
I'm
Please
concluding,
conclude.
last sentence.
I have called another speaker. Please conclude now.
I just want to stress, sir, that for the reasons I have summarized in my very brief intervention, we are unable to support this bill in the form in which it has been presented to the House. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.